Hey, what is up guys? Welcome to the Community CHIMPS Tierlist. Now, I wasn't associated in the making of this list in any way, but this was a surprise for me from the community and I was asked for my opinion / to make a video on it. And I can tell you that the guys did a great job, and with that being said, know that this tier list is not something that was made as a definitive chimps guide tier list, but rather as a helping and an orientational tool, let's say, for everyone. So even if you don't agree with the things in the tier list, the different opinions are what makes us get better at the game as a community. And with that being said, let's start. Alright, so S tier, towers you should basically always use. This is the equivalent of meta defining. The first one is the 402 Alchemist. By the way, these aren't ordered in any way. These aren't ranked in their respective tiers. So if the 402 Alchemist is first, this doesn't mean that he's considered to be the best out of these ones, so keep that in mind. Alright, so the 402 Alchemist, the strongest stimulant, basically by far the best tower in the game. The buff it gives is just incredible, and its cheap cost means it's quite easy to afford, even early game sometimes. No matter the tower that you're using, get one. So it's definitely an S tier tower, I would agree, and it's less effective on fast attacking towers because the buff gets worn out faster, but yeah, definitely one of the best towers in the game. The next one is Owen, the hero with the most utility. On top of being free, no need to purchase with monkey money. The buff it gives to magic monkeys is significant, while both its abilities are amazing. So I need to note something, and that is the heroes that are mentioned here are all free heroes. So heroes that you need to buy are not mentioned in this tier list, with the exception of Pat, just because the guys thought that he's just an exceptional tower. So yeah, I would agree with this comment that they have on Oben, definitely an S tier hero, and even though he got nerfed a little bit, his totem slows the Moabs by half the values now, he's still a great hero. So next up, 220 Village, the Jungle Drums and Radar Scanner Village. I don't think I need to talk about it. Increased attack speed and camo detection for everyone in range. On top of the range, increase the counts of the village. Yeah, basically that. 203 sub, triple guns, the best early to mid-game tower. It's cheap, its overall damage output is incredible, and it pairs better than most other towers with the 402 Alchemist due to the air burst supplying the buffs effect without using its limited attack count. Yeah, definitely. One of the best towers in the game, the 203 sub. It's cheap, it's very cost-effective tower, and it is actually one of the towers that is constantly used in these expert chimps runs. So for example, the Muddy Puddles and the Bloody Puddles runs all had a sub just because that tower is so good, and it's got a global range on top of that. So the last two are the 040 Engineer, the Overclock, and Pet Fusty. And the Engineer grants 80% attack speed increase, meaning that the tower attacks nearly twice as fast for a set duration based on the cost, the lowest duration being 2/3 of the time for towers that cost more than $40,000. So it's always worth using this on your main damage tower. Yes, definitely pairs nicely with some of A tier towers like the Sun Avatar, the Archmage, for example. And then Pat Fusty, currently the best hero in the game. Rallying Roar gives increased damage for every hit, which means it pairs extremely well with most carry towers, and even better with Overclock and Stronger Stimulant. Additionally, his level 10 ability helps a lot with UMGs, and the fact it partially stuns even blimps on hit makes him just incredible. I got something to add here, and that is on the later rounds, because Pat starts stunning the Moab class balloons. It is actually better to not use the level 10 ability, because while he's doing the big squeeze, that is the ability, while he's performing the ability, he stops attacking. That means he's not stunning the balloons anymore. So sometimes using the level 10 ability can actually be counterproductive. Now moving on to the A tier, these are amazing and reliable towers and the best towers that you can buy in the game. And the first one is the 302 Super, the Sun Avatar. One of the Overclock duo. Its damage output is quite high, but it skyrockets with Overclock, and since its cost is below 40k, that means that it has 100% uptime, making it consistently reliable. Now, it also goes surprisingly well with Stronger Stimulant due to its high attack speed, making the buff go from consistent damage upgrade to a sudden burst of damage. Its only downside is its inability to pop purples, which can be mitigated with a plutonium reactor or a Monkey Intelligence Bureau. Definitely an A tier tower. I wouldn't put it in S tier just because you know, you can choose between different towers to be your mid game slash maybe a little bit of late game towers. But definitely an A tier tower and one of the strongest towers in the game currently. Even though the knockback got nerfed a little bit, it still even slows down Moab class balloons, so that is always a plus. And even though it cannot pop purple balloons, usually by the time the purples come out you have a solution for them, so it's usually, let's say, a 203 sub or a 402 ninja or something like that. So next up is the 402 ninja, the Balloon Jitsu ninja. I disagree with this tower being put in A tier. I think this is an S tier tower, one of the best early to mid game towers, on par with the sub, but the difference is that the ninja can be placed anywhere, and it also goes nicely with Oben, which is let's say an Oben, a ninja, and a Sun Avatar strat, which was very popular. I think about up at around update 10 or update 11, something like that. I don't remember, maybe even before that actually. But that is a combo that's viable still, and you know, one of the best pairs with stronger stimulant alongside triple guns. And that's something cool about the ninja, is that even though the 402 ninja throws 5 shurikens at once, those 5 shurikens do not consume 5 charges of his stronger stimulant buff, so that makes him an excellent pair with the stronger stimulant alchemist. 501 Ninja Grandmaster. Why two ninjas on the same path? Because they fulfill different roles. Balloon Jitsu is an early to mid game tower, while Grandmaster is a carry tower. Yeah, Grandmaster is basically your game winning tower. Its biggest downsides are its necessity for Shinobi support to increase its pierce and attack speed up to 20 of them. This guy lacks lead popping power, meaning it needs an MIB to take care of DDTs, but other than that he's just a great tower. And he's responsible for a lot of chimps runs, mainly on towers with multiple entrances or exits like Quad or Ouch. Next up we got the X40 Ninja, the Balloon Sabotage Ninja. The best stalling tower in the game for the duration of the ability. All balloons are heavily slowed, making the round much easier. It is a lifesaver for rounds with DDT such as 93, 95 and 99, but it's also very noticeable in 98. The reason the cross padding is X40 is because it still retains its Shinobi utility if you use Grandmaster, and also that while 040 is cheaper, 140 can very slightly help thanks to distraction and counter espionage. So I really wouldn't upgrade the top path at all if I'm going to buy a Balloon Sabotage, if my goal is a Balloon Sabo. But yeah, for sure, I guess you can find some use for it. But I agree with everything said here, I got nothing else to add. Now the 104 Ace, aka the Spectre, I would just get a 204 just because I can. But yeah, the second overclock duo, the damage on this thing once overclocked is just stupid, as shown by I think Yaya Josh was the first one that did it. Another great upside is that the Neva mistargeting, the third tier upgrade, is a very reliable and surprisingly powerful for its cost. Yeah, I got something to add about this, but I'm gonna talk about it later on in the video. Also pairs incredibly well with stronger stimulant. However, Spectre, the upgraded version, isn't as reliable and it has a bad tendency to miss faster balloons, making it bad against DDTs. And also it cannot damage DDTs without an MIB. Yeah, so those are the two weaknesses of the Spectre. The first one is missing a lot of shots, and the second one is needing a DDT for the cost. So you're spending, I think, about 30k and you cannot do damage to DDTs. But yeah, you can always just get an MIB, and the overclocked Spectre is just insane. It's yeah, I think the second, as they put it, the second best overclock duo after the super monkey. So next up, the 025 Spike Factory, aka the Perma Spike. Do I need to explain? Put this thing in the back with a single 400 Alchemist for it and it alone, and you won't ever be afraid of stray balloons, even entire BFBs, all I have to say. Even entire ZOMGs is what I can add, and not one ZOMG, a lot of ZOMGs. The Perma Spike is responsible for the completion of Bloody Puddles chimps, as well as being the easiest way of completing a lot of expert maps. So yeah, definitely an A tier tower. Quincy, the best early game hero. He is cheap and reliably takes care of early rounds, making it a great choice if you're unsure on how your early game will go. He isn't fit for round 6, but if you place him after the initial sub and dart that is usually used early game, he will round up the defense surprisingly effectively. We still recommend using Oben instead, but he is worth mentioning. I'm starting to use Quincy a lot more now in my chimps runs. But yeah, nothing to add here. He's just rounding up the defense after the sub and the dart really nicely, and that's, I think, along with the early camo detection and maybe a little bit of AoE popping power, I think those are his main attributes that make him strong in the early game. And then he gains levels really fast, and he's also very strong in the late game. He's surprisingly strong, I think, in the late game. Next up, the 501 Helipilot, aka the Apache Prime, arguably one of, if not the most reliable towers on the list. Thanks to Pursuit, he has global map coverage, however that is a bad thing for maps with multiple entrances at once. Besides that, he has really high damage output and usually makes the bat at around 100 rather easy to kill. It struggles on fast balloons, pinks and DDTs mostly, but he still performs incredibly well as a main damage tower. Just prepare some DDT popping power on top of him and some other things for round 98 and you'll be set. Yeah, something like a 0-4 mortar on round 98, even though that might not always be necessary. See, he's very good against Moabs, but he struggles against those super ceramics because they're fast, and while he's on Pursuit, he always targets the first tower, sorry, the first balloon. So this means that when you're gonna pop the, let's say, the Moab on round 98, he's going to be chasing the ceramic balloons, and he's quite bad versus fast balloons in general. So that means that either you're gonna have to do some micro, or maybe add another damage tower to take care of the ceramics on shorter maps. 502 Wizard, aka the Archmage, probably the easiest tower to use on this list. He doesn't require support besides other towers to pop purple balloons, but still benefits greatly from it. Additionally, Arcane Spike is an incredible mid-game tower. He also has the major benefit of taking care of DDTs easily. Yes, exactly, well said. So still rocking 8 tier list towers. Next up is the 023 Glue Gunner, aka the Moab Glue. Another great stalling tower. It slows all Moab class balloons, including DDTs, if you give it camo detection, making it an amazing tower for rounds 80 to 100. It doesn't do any pops on its own, and it's purely a support tower, but performs amazingly well at its job, slowing down Moabs. I would not buy the second tier. I would buy it as a 013 just because the second tier upgrade is kind of expensive, and other than that, another great stalling tower. It doesn't slow the Moab class balloons by a lot, but definitely for the money that you're paying, I think it's a great tower. Next up, and the last 8 tier tower, is the 205 Sub, aka the Sub Commander. This one will include both the tower and the so-called sub army, which consists of a large amount of 203 or 204 subs placed in the Sub Commander's range. Thanks to his buff, he makes the other subs incredibly strong, not to mention the fact that they still benefit immensely from stronger simulants. Its only downsides are its need for a Monkey Intelligence Bureau for DDTs, placing dart monkeys across the map for more coverage, and its limited range, meaning you can only place so many subs in the vicinity for the buff. The sub army is still pretty strong though, and it's quite fun to use. Side note, if you're using a sub army, don't buy overclocks, they aren't going to do you any good. And yes, this is more or less the only time you won't buy overclocks. Yeah, basically that. So B-tier towers, these are towers that are a bit more situational but are still very strong and should be kept in mind. The first one is the 230 Village, the Monkey Intelligence Bureau Village, also known as the MIB or the Men in Black Village as I like to call it. It is basically an upgraded version of the 220 Village. It is somewhat costly but makes all towers in its range pop all types of balloons. In some cases, like if you're doing a Grandmaster or a sub-army strategy, it is necessary, but in others it's only optional. So buy it only if you think you need it, and it can be skipped entirely depending on which towers you use. Yes, exactly. I would rather buy towers that can deal with the different types of balloons, but sometimes this 230 Village is a necessity. and it's basically used mostly, I think, in these spam strategies like the Grandmaster spam strategy, the sub-army spam strategy, and the Druid spam strategy, because none of them can pop DDTs. But other than that, it's yeah, kind of a more of a situational tower. Next up, the Tax Zone. This tower holds the record for cheapest chimps completed alongside Pet Fusty, just to tell you how well they synergize together. It benefits immensely from stronger stimulant and overclock, but is somewhat map dependent. Overdrive is also quite strong, but it gets natural lead popping tower with tier 5, so it doesn't need help with DDTs. Yes, definitely. I love seeing this tower here. I think it's very well placed in B tier, and nothing to add besides try overclocking this one. It's a very cheap tower, so try overclocking it, and maybe if you can buy a permabrew and just see what it does. So next up, the 040 sub, aka the first strike capability. This tower's only usage is to cheese the bad on around 100. Once it's heavily damaged, it can be seen by sprite, and near popped, use first strike. It will instantly destroy both the BAD and the balloons inside. It can feel necessary for some games and completely skippable on others, but its utility shouldn't be undermined. And I have to add something to this, and that is that on some maps you can even get to use it twice on the BAD. So even if you don't have enough damage, try using the ability as soon as the bad appears or as soon as round 100 starts, and then using it again before the round ends. Now this guy, the 025 Dart, the Crossbow Master. This is the cheapest carry tower. It doesn't perform nearly as well as some others, but its damage output thanks to crits, especially with overclocks, is quite high. Immense range and lead popping power makes it reliable on almost every map, and cheap, meaning it can perform well with other stronger carry towers. Yes, I love this tower. I love the Crossbow Master, and this is kind of a weird tower for me because it checks so many boxes but still is not used enough, I think. And so he can pop purple balloons, he can pop lead balloons, he can see camo balloons. He's got a lot of attack range, he attacks very fast, he's below 40k, like he checks so many boxes, and still he's not being used as much. And I think he's so close to making it to A tier, but B tier is definitely the place for him. So next up, the 024 Mortar, aka the Shattering Shells one, removes fortified properties off of Moabs and BFBs as well as normal balloons, making it more or less healthy. Health of rounds 96 and 98, so take it if you struggle with fortified balloons, otherwise you can skip it as it's quite expensive, definitely. Maybe not having the health of round 96 because it only has like 40 fortified Moabs, but definitely the most useful on round 98, and that's about it with this tower, so a very situational one. Now the 032 Alchemist, aka the unstable concoction one, it's hard to explain why this tower is here, but a simple way to put it would be it creates explosions based on Moab class health, meaning it can deal insane damage nearly instantly that can create chain reactions, etc. So basically I would only buy it as a 130, it's a little bit cheaper, although the 032 is more effective, I was told. So yeah, definitely use this tower at your own risk because it can deal a lot of damage, and it deals a lot of damage. It's a very cheap tower, but it comes with a certain risk, and that is it can create a lot of ceramics or Moabs, which your defenses might get overwhelmed by. Now next up, the 320 Buccaneer, aka the Destroyer. I'm very happy to see this tower here. For those of you that remember a while back, I think it was about a year ago, this was one of the towers that was a part of a deflation round 100 strategy. The tower is still insane, it's still very strong. So let's just read through it. It says the damage output this thing has is quite high for its cost. It handles Moabs fairly easily and can even almost single-handedly take care of harder rounds, such as round 49 with jungle jump support on most maps. It's a bit gimmicky due to being a water tower, but it's quite good. So definitely one of its weaknesses is that it's a water tower, and the second one I'd say is that it doesn't have camo detection in it. So unlike the sub, let's say the 203 sub, which can get camo detection by placing a 00 dart, for example, this guy needs a village, and that is quite the investment for an early to mid-game tower. the 015 Druid, aka the Avatar of Wrath. It's basically a mini Grandmaster. I think the Grandmaster is a mini Avatar of Wrath, but okay. It has crazy high damage output and only needs 5 pop lusts, 014 Druids usually, to maximize its potential. It doesn't pop lead either, so an MIB is needed. It's harder to get going due to its higher price, although since 6 pop lusts are surprisingly powerful, it should be doable. Yes, exactly. Next up, C-tier towers. These are towers that are situational and thus not great, but still should be taken into account. The first one is Gwen. She's strong, but she lacks the utility of Obin or Pet while not being able to carry early on, as well as Quincy. Her heated up is good, but the uptime is horrible and isn't user controlled, making it a bit of hazard at times. Also has RNG and Cocktail. Yeah, so I have two things to say about Gwen. She's definitely a C-tier hero, but in terms of the RNG and the Cocktail thingy, the Cocktail is always thrown on first, so the first bloom that Gwen is targeting, so you can kind of work around that. And the second thing is that I agree with the heated up thingy, that it's horrible. It recently got buffed. It does more damage now. It adds 1 damage, I think, to the surrounding towers, and then plus 2 damage to lead blooms, which was a change made specifically to target DDTs. But I think the way that you can make this tower better is by making heated up an ability, an activatable ability. Which can immensely help on rounds like 93, 95, you know, the DDT rounds, and maybe even the early game rounds. Now, about the 140 Spike Factory, aka the Spike Storm, another great Moab killer, especially for the bad. It can save you from hard spots at times, but isn't capable of handling large quantities of bloons at once. So buying a 240 instead is worth if you want to use it for DDTs, but it is good against DDTs on, I think, only 2 rounds, well, maybe 3, yeah, 3 rounds, so around 90, 93 and 99, just because there are too many DDTs on 95 and the spikes are gonna get used up real quick. The 015 Ice, the Icicle Impale, this tower slopes Moab class bloons a lot on top of dealing high damage. However, it is incredibly expensive and is useless before getting 5th tier, meaning it's very situational due to the investment. Additionally, if you get an Impale, get an MIB, because even Moab class bloons are considered frozen. It also needs MIB support to hit DDTs, because the attack speed from 015 is just that much better than going for 205 purely for DDTs. I would love to see this tower getting more love and more uses. It was used, I think, in a workshop chimps run, but other than that, I haven't seen this tower get much use. The 520 Mortar, aka the biggest one mortar, wipes ceramics like they weren't even here, but has a lot of problems dealing with Moab class bloons. It's very good at cleaning the field, but can't handle being a primary damage tower. Works especially well with stronger stimulants thanks to its relatively slow attack speed, meaning it benefits greatly from the boost that stronger stimulants give at attack speed. This tower can also be combined with an overclock, and it really ramps up the damage of this tower, the overclock, and is kind of a situational tower, with being the most effective, I think, on Spillway. The 402 Sniper, aka the main Moab one. A stalling tower that stalls a single Moab class bloon at a time might seem pointless. However, if you put him on last, it allows for 1 ZOMG to be taken off round 98, and if you put him on strong, it makes the ZOMGs advance slightly slower. It's especially good on round 97, allowing you to basically take the ZOMGs once at a time if you don't mind waiting for a while for the second one to pop. It is also incredible when paired with Perma Spike. Yes, definitely this tower is C tier, but it goes straight to A tier when you're doing a Perma Spike strategy, just because this one is the game-winning tower on expert maps that are using the Perma Spike strategy. So this one on rounds 90, well, especially on round 97, is the absolute OG tower, because it can stall the last ZOMG so much that the Perma Spike is going to basically renew all of the spikes needed to beat 3 rounds, the last 3 rounds, 98, 99 and 100, which have a combined RB of, I think, almost 500,000. The 500 Engineer, aka the Sentry Paragon. It It might seem weird to see him here, but he's surprisingly good, although a bit gimmicky. The reason he's put S500, meaning no crosspath, is that this way he's just below the 40,000. I love it, they did the maths on this. He's just below the $40,000 range for overclock, meaning he gets 100% uptime. As a result, he spawns turrets incredibly fast, giving him really good damage output. He's still a bit gimmicky and has absolutely no synergy with stronger stimulant, but he can still do surprisingly good damage. The turret explosions have also been made easier to use as well as stronger, so it's a nice buff for him. Yeah, so basically the turret explosions, when you were to sell the turrets, they would take a while before exploding, and they recently got to change to exploding instantly, so that's nice. And I might see someone using this in some way, but overall I agree, this is a C tier tower that is definitely a tower to look out for, and that might make it into the higher tiers. Next up, the 140 Heli Pilot, aka the Sport Chinook. Downdraft, need I say more? It allows for Ceram clumps to be much easier to deal with, especially in free play, giving you more time to deal with everything and making rounds overall easier. He also comes with the added benefit of being able to reposition your towers if needed. The reason it's 140 and not 240 or 130 is because Chinook has more downdraft peers, he sends back more balloons than tier 3, and he performs quite poorly on pursuit. You can still buy it if you want, but it's best without it. I actually did a rant on this, and that was the only rant video I have ever done. I'm not sure if I can call it a rant, but I talked about this specific upgrade, the middle tier Heli Pilot. This was a long ago, I think this was a year ago, something like that. But basically, what it used to be, it was the downdraft was the same on the 3rd tier and the 4th tier, and then I think I complained something along the lines of you know, if we're spending that much cash, maybe make the downdraft stronger, and they did actually make the downdraft stronger. They made it twice as strong as the 3rd tier. But other than that, there is an ongoing meme that this guy is useful only for one thing, and that is moving your perma-brew from one place to another. Next up, the 032 glue, aka the glue hose. If ceramics are an issue, use this tower. He will slow basically every single balloon every single time, except Moab class balloons, to make everything easier on your damaged towers. However, since usually the issue are the large clumps of Moab class balloons and not the ceramics they leave behind, he is a bit gimmicky. Definitely not a tower that is often used, and definitely not you're not going to be buying this guy unless you're going for a 5th tier middle path, and even if you're going for a 5th tier, you should be going for a 250 instead of a 052, because the corrosive glue upgrade allows the glue storm ability to make it stick onto Moab class balloons. So yeah, basically that. F tier, only use them if you really want to. They can do their job, but they aren't recommended. First up is the 052 bomb, aka the Moab Eliminator. So first off, I'm not sure why you would buy the 2nd tier bottom pad, because if you're going for a 5th tier bomb, you're going to buy it exclusively for the for the ability, aka the Moab Eliminator abilities. So I'm not sure what the 052 is, but yeah, anyway, it's a more expensive and worse version of First Strike. Its largest benefit over First Strike is that it doesn't need water, yeah. And if you need the high BAD damage but don't have water, either go with this or Spike Storm spam, but the difference is that this guy is ridiculously expensive, so yeah, F tier for sure. Next up, the 204 bomb, the recursive cluster. Specifically talking about the recursive spam here, it still deals with grouped balloons incredibly well, but it doesn't perform anywhere near as well as it used to. Yeah, it got nerfed a little bit, I think, or fixed, I'm not sure. But getting 1 or 2 recursives for group balloon damage is still nice, but too many aren't that good anymore. I would just put this in D tier. I know that there isn't a D tier on this list, but if there were, I would just put it up a tier, and that's about it. The 250 tag, the Super Maelstrom, incredibly cheap and infinite pierce makes it a prime contender for clumped balloon wreckage. Except it doesn't have the damage necessary to make anything happen past round 80. If you overclock it, the damage output is significant, but it's an investment to take. Actually, it's very strong past round 80, But the thing that the 250 tech suffers from is placement and ability timing and map. So you need to find a good placement, you need to do it on a specific map, and you need to time your ability as well in order for this guy to have any impact in the game. The 501 Ace, the Sky Shredder, a really fun tower that has good points, mainly its incredible BAD damage. However, it struggles against most rounds past 80 due to its relatively low pierce and damage its normal darts offer, so it's good but not good enough. I think a way to buff the Sky Shredder is just to make its price below 40k so that it can be overclocked on 100% uptime, but other than that I would just put him into D tier just because I don't think he's that bad for F tier, but definitely an underused tower, and rightfully so. And the last tower is the 024 Boomerang KK, the Moab Press. The knockback effect on Moab class balloons is good and can be the difference between life and death at times. However, it doesn't activate enough and doesn't send back far enough to make it particularly strong. It is definitely helpful on top of being cheap, but it doesn't do quite enough. It also doesn't affect DDTs, which is a major downside, as they are the ones that need to be slowed down the most. It's also quite powerful when paired with perma spike. So first off, I would definitely put this guy in D tier, but again, there is no D tier, so yeah, I guess the F is fine. And this guy kind of can get moved up, I think, a tier or two if you're doing a perma spike strategy. And also something that I would like to note about this specific tower is that the slower the balloon is, the more useful this tower is going to be, because the effect triggers on I think it's based on attacks made, right? So it's going to trigger more often on zero MGs, and because they are slow, the effect is going to be better on zero MGs instead of Moabs, which are faster. Alright, so that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is the longest video I've ever made, so thank you for sticking through it, and good luck in the giveaway, and I'll see you guys in the next one.